Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name's Soleil and I garden in mid-Michigan in a zone 5B, and it's still the middle of winter and we still have at least 6 inches of snow outside. So we're going to do some indoor gardening again today. I just wanted to take a minute to show you that I have this gorgeous amaryllis that just keeps blooming. This bloom has been here for at least a week. It's gorgeous. And then I have some additional ones that are coming up here. This amazing bud right here. And on this side, I have another bud that's coming out as well, and then several others that are still in initial stages of coming up. So it's just beautiful. In addition to that, I have been trying to root out some of these citronella geraniums. They smell so good. I don't know if you've ever grown these before, but they have a really nice lemon scent. They say that they're good to get rid of mosquitoes or to keep the mosquitoes away, but I don't find they do a really great job of it. I do think that they're beautiful though. And look at this as I'm rooting them out. I have the cutest little flowers, you guys, that are coming out of this one. And all of them are getting buds on them. Absolutely amazing. So, yep, I've got a few of these. All I did was cut them off and just took some of the extra leaves off the bottom, and I have them in some water, and they just look so cute in these little vases and they make me really happy. So let's go downstairs and we're going to go into my growing area and we're going to plant a couple of seeds, and we're also going to try to pot up some plants that I've been propagating. All right, let's go. All right, so we are now downstairs in my potting area, and I have some things I wanted to show you also that I got from the dollar store that are pretty cool. I don't know if you've been to the dollar store lately. I don't go all that often, but I just went and they have upped their prices from $1 to $1.25. So you might be surprised if you go there and find that a number of different things are $1.25 instead of $1, but some things are still a pretty good deal. So I just wanted to show you a few of the things that I found because maybe you'd be interested in getting them yourself. So this item right here might be a little hard to see, but this is like a wreath mold or wires. And what I want to use this for is for inside a pot. And this is actually a ribbon wreath form, so it's kind of in the shape of like a ribbon that you might use for a charity like breast cancer or something like that. And what I want to do is just bend these bottom parts together, and I think that those will fit really great down into a pot. And then if I want to, I could grow like some ivy over it or some other trailing plant, and I think that's a really great bargain. So for $1.25, you can't beat it. Okay, another thing that I find there that is useful is some of these hanging hooks. So these are metal garden hooks and also $1.25 each, but if you can't find them at your hardware store, I mean, this is a great deal. I find, being a short person, that I really like these hooks for hanging baskets, especially if I'm hanging them from like the underside of my roof. And it just helps bring them down to a height at which I can reach up and water them still. So these are great for that. They're also good for hanging baskets in the house if you're hanging them off of perhaps a curtain rod or something like that. And they have them in multiple sizes. So if you buy the large ones, they're $1.25 each. But I also got some small ones here, and so it was $1.25 for two of these. The other thing you can do with these is actually hook one pot to the next pot if you want to as well. So there's lots of fun things that you can try out with them, so I thought I'd share that. Okay, another fun thing that I found there, if you don't have great seed starting supplies, and I always encourage everyone to try to recycle as much as you can, reduce, reuse, recycle, right? So once you've reduced your plastic use, you probably find that you still have a lot of plastic that you're putting into your recycle bin. Well, before you put it in your recycle bin, you can also reuse it for a lot of seed starting projects. And we'll be doing that when we do some winter sowing, because you can absolutely use a lot of different plastic containers for that. But if you don't have easy access to that, or your neighbors don't have any recycling and you can't find anybody to save some milk jugs or water bottles for you, they have these cute little trays with a lid on them. And the nice thing about this is that it's just a nice natural dome. Let me see if I can get this together here. It's slightly bent from having the paper packaging over it, but it's a really nice size to be able to start things at home, especially if you don't have a very big spot to put them in. And you could definitely use these more than once. They're a very lightweight plastic, so they're not super heavy duty. I've used takeout trays, though. You guys might notice this looks a lot like a takeout tray. And some takeout trays even have some little holes in the top to let out some of the steam already, so you don't have to poke a whole lot. But you might want to also insert some drainage holes in the bottom of it if you do use it. So just some tips and tricks from the dollar store. And then the final thing that I got there that I thought might be useful to folks if you don't have access to a nursery or something like that, they have these little bags of seed starting potting mix. And this actually has peat in it, so if you don't want to grow with peat, I would avoid this. It's sphagnum peat, horticultural vermiculite, perlite, and a wetting agent. And so the vermiculite really helps keep the soil more moist, and the perlite helps with more aeration. So those are really some great finds that I had, and these two things together go very well, and they also even sell some seeds there. So I'm just going to show you some examples. Some people might say morning glories are invasive in their area. If so, avoid them. But I think they're really pretty. And my father-in-law really likes morning glories, so I got some seeds so that I can get some started for him this year, and I'll pass them off to him. He likes to grow those in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan and have those out, so it's kind of a tradition. Had a really hard time finding them last year, so I got him not just the blue ones, but also some pink ones, and we'll see if he likes those or not. All right, well, let's take a look at what we're going to do with these plants today. Okay, so what I have here is a neon pothos, and pothos are a really easy plant to grow, but it is starting to get just a skosh big for this pot, and I really like the way that this one looks, so I want to pot this one up, and it's going to be really easy to do. So let's just pop this out. You can see it's got some nice healthy roots going all the way down to the bottom. It's not overly root bound or anything like that, but there's a lot of new growth on this plant right now, so I want to make sure it has plenty of room because we are definitely getting into the growing season. And you'll see I'm just using a nice potting mix. I think this might be Land and Sea, something like that. And I have added quite a bit of perlite into it because that really helps with ensuring that there's plenty of aeration in the soil. If you're like me and you tend to, overwater your plants, then as you're potting up your plants, it's really good to add in the perlite because it does help to prevent that and keep really good drainage and keep plenty of aeration in there. Once I get this potted up, we're also going to pot up a Scindapsus. I've been doing some propagation of that, and now that they are rooted in water, I want to make sure I get them into soil before the roots get too long, because then they have a much harder time adapting. All right, I think this looks really cute, don't you guys? It's going to be beautiful as it grows on. So we're just going to water that in a little bit. And right now I'm still working my way through some of my last organic fertilizers, but they seem to be really happy, or at least making my plants really happy. So, all right, I'm going to set this one aside. Now I want to work on this Scindapsus. Now, let me grab a couple other things before we start. So this plant is a Scindapsus pictus agrarius, and it's a really beautiful plant. This has been a propagation that I have been growing on into a more full plant, but it still has some more space in the pot that I want to fill in because I really like a lush and full looking plant. So I have done some cuttings and put them into these cute little glass bottles. This is my Spice Rack Propagation Station results. So If you wonder what I'm talking about, it's just I have an Old Spice rack. These are Old Spice rack bottles. I just popped the corks out of them and fill them up with water, and then they make a really great propagation station for rooting out your plants. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull this plant out, and then we're going to add in these and repot it all up together. All right, let's go. Okay, so there's a lot of plant material here, and what I just want to do is make sure all of the roots are at about the same height, so that as I repot it all together, that I bury the appropriate areas of the cuttings. It can take a while to really grow on a plant and make it look lush and full, but it's totally worth it, you guys. So if you have the opportunity to try propagation, I highly recommend it. Many people, I think, who are outdoor gardeners can truly appreciate propagation, because sometimes I think that the growing on house plants can be a little bit intimidating if you're an outdoor gardener. Some people might think indoor gardening is easier, but I happen to think outdoor gardening is much easier. You don't have to worry as much about watering too much. And nature often takes care of itself quite well. So I'm going to mix in some of this new potting mix, which has a little more perlite in it, with the potting mix that was currently in this particular pot, because I do feel like it needs a little bit more aeration. I feel like it gets a little too compact. There are a lot of roots going on here, so we want to get them all in. And I find that it's easy to get all of the roots in, start filling, and then kind of do a little tug like. I don't know if you've ever done a ponytail. It's kind of like jiggling around a little bit to let a little bit of air in around the roots, as if you're kind of loosening or tightening a ponytail. I don't know if that makes any sense to people. And we'll take out these. You can see the roots on these are pretty good. I don't want them to get any longer than that though, or they'll have a very difficult time transitioning into a soil instead of the water, which they've been living in now for about a month. Maybe even 5 or 6 weeks. Some people say that Scindapsus tends to root out slowly, but for me, I don't seem to have any problems with getting it to root. And again, I just put it directly into the water, and you know, it's important to try to keep the water fresh, but I have to admit that I don't freshen it up all that often. You know, some people say replenish it every week or something like that, but I just watch it, and if it gets kind of discolored, then I will actually replace it. But if it's not looking funky, then I just leave it. One of the reasons why the replacement of the water is a good idea, if you remember and you're good at it, is that it helps to provide more air and oxygen down in, so that the plant roots can continue to develop well and be healthy. So when you start to put together new cuttings and you start to create a new plant, don't worry if it looks a little funky at first. You'll see that mine is not exactly the perfect dome shape. It's not growing in the exact right direction, but that's okay. That's pretty normal when you first pot it up because it has to get used to its new growing environment, and it will begin to grow towards the light, and you can continue to turn the plant to make it grow more evenly as the new leaves start to flesh out. So don't worry if it looks a little wonky. You'll see as I put this one together, it still looks wonky. But eventually I'll have a really beautiful and full plant, and that's what I'm going for. Sometimes it just takes a little patience. But I definitely think this looks better than it did already. We have a lot more leaf growth, and the top part in here, kind of the crown of the plant, is much bushier. So I like that a lot. Now you do want to kind of push down a little bit on the soil as you get it into the plant, just to make sure that there's no air pockets around the roots, because if there is, it can make it difficult for them to stay hydrated. These Scindapsus, they're not super water hogs though, so they're pretty forgiving. I know some people think that they're a little harder to grow than pothos, because while they do look similar to pothos, they are a different plant. So they do have a little bit of different needs. I find personally that they need a slight bit more water than pothos do, and a slight bit more sun. At least to thrive. Alright, I'm just going to get this one in, finish it up, and then we'll do a little bit of seeding today too. Plant some of my first seeds. Hooray! I can't wait. And I want to tell you about a great resource for seed starting. If you've never started seed before, or even if you have for years and you're trying something new, or you're just never quite sure when to plant certain types of seeds, Johnny Seeds has a really cool calculator on their website that if you put in your first frost-free date, so like for me it'd be around May 15th, like the last frost of the winter, it will actually back calculate to when you should be starting to sow seeds indoors. So it's really cool. Check it out if you are curious. I love it because then I can be like, okay, what can I actually sow in February, and it won't get too big or, you know, outgrow its containers before it's time. All right, I'm happy to have this in its new pot, or with all of its new propagations in here. We'll just get it watered in. All right. And I'll just kind of fuss with this a little bit later, trying to make it so that as the leaves grow out, it grows in a nice direction. So I just love it though. Isn't that pretty? Scindapsus, beautiful plant. Okay, we're going to try out this little Dollar Tree and seed starting mix. So you all can see what it looks like alongside me. All right, so one thing that's good to know is that you probably can buy 2 of these plastic trays to go along with one of these bags, that might be okay. I think I'm going to make sure that mine are so deeply because we're going to try some perennial plants here. But definitely a little bit more than what you would normally need. And then I'm just going to, actually, I'm going to use my spray bottle. So this mix appears to be really, really dry, so I'm just going to pour some extra water down in there and let it soak in. Take some time to do this. Let it sit. Especially if it's a peat-based or cocoa coir, it can take a little time to absorb the water. Oh my goodness, you guys, this is probably some of the driest seed starting mix that I have ever come across. So if you buy the stuff from the dollar store, beware, you might have to wait like 20 minutes for it to soak in. So now that we are past that, I just want to show you, like, it's good to make sure that your soil can kind of clump, but you also don't want it to be like dripping. So you can't take water out as easily as you can put water in, so just kind of add it slowly and watch your mixture and make sure that it gets to the point where it will clump, but it's not sopping wet. So here's my experiment this year for some seeds, which I feel like I'm doing a lot of this year because I already tried it with the Hoconi Chloe grass and it does not seem to be germinating at all. And I did some research on that, and there's kind of a little controversy online as to whether or not it even produces viable seeds. But that aside, what I have right now is some Calicarpa or some beautyberry seeds. So these are like purple. I don't know if you can see them very well, but I found these on a bush. They have some gardens that are near me that are at the Michigan State University, and so they were already dry and dead and they would just be falling to the ground, so I picked them up and thought I would try them. I don't know if they'll grow from seed like this, but we're going to give it a shot, and I'm just going to sprinkle them over one side of this tray. I think there's probably about 10 of those seeds. I would love it if even a couple of them grew. It's a small bush. A lot of people call it the beautyberry bush because it produces really pretty berries, and I keep dropping them. They are like a purple lavender color, and they're just really beautiful during the fall and winter time. So we're going to try those, and then I'm also going to do some penstemon seeds. So I collected some penstemon seeds from my yard, and these are very beautiful. They're kind of a purple red color, and I'm actually not going to sow all of the seeds in this bag. I'm going to save some to do a little winter sowing and see which way works better for me. So we're going to put these are little teeny tiny seeds, and we're just going to sprinkle them on the other side of this tray as well. They seem to be wanting to stick to me. Not sure if I got enough of them in there, so we're going to get a little bit more. My hands were getting so dirty there I couldn't even tell what I was doing for a minute. So I just collected these in a little baggie. And just in order to keep these seeds moist, I'm going to put a really light layer of some vermiculite on top. Again, this is just something that helps keep things moist. This kind of helps with any evaporation that might occur. And we'll put the top on here. And I'm just going to write directly on here with a Sharpie, Penstemon, and Calicarpa. And we'll see how these seed up and how they grow on. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope it was fun to do a variety of tasks. I know I'm in a bit of the winter doldrums here. It's just pure white outside. I can't even take you out there to show you things because there's barely anything that's sticking out of the snow right now. But, you know, it's February, and so we're getting on, and we're getting to the point where we can start some more seeds. We'll be doing some winter sowing soon, and again, we'll be starting some other seeds that are good for the end of February and the beginning of March soon as well. You don't want to start seeds too soon just because you have the itch to grow. I've been there, I've done that, and I'm trying to learn from that lesson. All right, well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. We'll see you soon. Bye!